Welcome to Marketing Without the Marketing. This is your host, Michael Bosey, trying to teach you everything I know about content marketing 10 minutes at a time. That's going to take a while, so I hope you'll subscribe and I hope that you'll get something out of it. It's been a lot of fun so far. Now, today I would like to talk about how to create brand advocates, and that all starts with your story. That won't surprise you, given that this whole podcast is about content strategy and using content to make connections with folks. And why? Why is that? Well, when you boil it down, people don't buy a product or a service from you. They actually buy a story. It's not a new concept. I should probably credit that, but I don't know who to originally credit. But a story is really important because the story is at the very root of trust. The trust that you're trying to build with your audience. Why do you do what you do? That why is really important. It really matters to people in sort of the new way that we do business. And it's also at the core of your content strategy. Now, great content is how you'll connect with your audience both directly and indirectly. So let's talk about those two things for just a second, right? These sort of direct connections and indirect connections. Now, in direct connections, that's either going to be B2C or B2B, two different types of businesses. Mine tends to be more B2B, at least for now. Now, there are only two ways that you can build trust directly. The first is tell your story in very clear language, not only what you do, but also how you do it and why you do it as well. And then the second thing is to treat your story as a promise. I talked about this in an entire episode, which I'll link to in the show notes. Now, that promise to your audience is something you should take very seriously. You're going to vow, in a way, to consistently come through on that promise. Now, this takes time, of course, right? The first time that you tell your story to someone, you're not likely to get a conversion. You're not likely to make a sale. Now, some may give you the benefit of the doubt, but, it's not likely, not at that first touch anyway, right? Trust is something that you've got to earn over time. And of course, the issue with new businesses is that you don't often have a lot of time. You feel under the gun, you feel rushed, and especially if you're bootstrapping, how long can you wait without actually getting paid? It's a real struggle for some businesses, and it puts the pressure on. Now, even if you are funded, right, by VCs, angels, whatever, you've got outside funding, how patient are they going to be? In either case, it's going to make you think about how you accelerate the business. All right, so let's talk about indirect connections. That tends to be the thing that really is, in a way, it's kind of the holy grail of content marketing. I call this C2C or customer to customer because really there's only one way to accelerate the trust process, and that's through advocacy. I talk about this all the time, right? Customers creating other customers for you. For small businesses, this is your growth engine. Getting those customers to actually talk to other customers, to advocate on your behalf. This is the entire goal of content marketing. The problem is, that's not that easy, right? Advocacy can't be purchased. It's got to be genuine if it's going to work, and it's got to be given willingly. Now, there's a bunch of research on this, and I refer to this book all the time by Rob Frugetta. It's called Brand Advocates, and what he says in his research is that if an advocate is compensated in any way, it undermines the credibility and thereby the effectiveness of the advocate. And that compensation can be either payment, a contest, a chance to win, any sort of incentive for me to share with you makes that transaction a little perverse, right? If someone knows that or finds out about it, that there was some sort of incentive for me to do that, it weakens that bond. And actually, it can not just weaken it, but it can harm it as well. So how do you create willing advocates? If that's really important, how do you actually do it? Now, oversimplifying, there's only a couple things that you can do. One is to over-deliver, right? So by definition, like I said, no one talks about something unremarkable. So you just got to be remarkable. And only you know how to do that in your business, with your product, your service, your audience. What is it that you can set up in the way that you do your business that you promise something, and then not only do you come through on that promise, but you actually over-deliver? That's the thing that actually makes people want to remark to others about you. And then the second thing to, create a willing advocate is give them a little bit of help. Write the script for them. Give your advocates the language that they need to sell on your behalf. If the transaction is to happen where I am going to talk about your business, if I don't have the language to do that, that's not my fault as the consumer. It's yours as the business. Give them the language that they need. And that's the whole point of a content strategy, is to actually create that and seed it and give that to your customers so that not only do they have the language, but they believe in it and they want to share it. And then you're actually giving them the things to share or the language to do that. They may do that on their own. They may create their own language. It's up to you to watch that. But help them, right? If they're going to sell for you, help them. Because the ultimate goal is for customers to actually be carrying your message for you. Now, people naturally appreciate a great product or service, one that's remarkable, using that word again, but just reduce the friction, right? Give them a hand with it. Make it easy for them to tell your story to others. And the way that I always describe that is in a content strategy is to give them short, shareable pieces of informational content. It's really not their job to explain it for you. In fact, once it is their job, they're not believable anymore, right? That goes back to the payment. If they're actually being paid in some way for it, then it makes them less believable. Now, this is way more powerful than traditional marketing. And it's kind of logical, right? Traditional marketing is me saying something about myself, not at all believable. But in content marketing, that's someone else saying something about me or my business. And if they're advocating for me, you're way more likely to believe them as long as you trust them. And this whole thing, the way this works, this is the only way to supercharge your growth, right? This is taking advantage of network effects, people talking to other people. That, like I said, make that frictionless. The network is there. Just make sure that the message travels. As long as you're remarkable, you've produced something that people want to talk about. They have the channels to do that. Just help them by giving them the content. Now, of course, like I talked about in the last episode, all this starts with a genuine mission, the desire to do some good, make a positive difference in the world. And then all you got to do really is to build trust by consistently over-delivering and creating meaningful connections around the content that you produce. Okay, so thank you so much for listening. As always, really glad that you can join me. Thanks for the questions, the comments, all that. And if you like this episode, you like the podcast in general, please leave a rating on iTunes. That type of thing helps a lot, not just helping me, but helps others find the podcast as well, which I really appreciate. Or just share via Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever channel suits you. Just really appreciate that. But of course, I like to live what I preach, so only do that if you really like it and you're really getting some value out of it. All right, thanks again. We'll see you on the next episode.